News when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Nathan Hager.
And I'm Karen Moscow.
Karen, we begin with the latest on the slow rollout of the Jeffrey Epstein files. The Justice Department's released a second batch of documents from its investigation into the late sex offender. Many of the hundreds of thousands of documents contain references to President Trump, including a 2020 email from a prosecutor that detailed trips on Epstein's private plane in the 1990s. And President Trump has said those trips never took place. Bloomberg's Ben Bain reports the way the files are being released is frustrating all sides.
Part of this is we really don't know about the order with which things are being released. What the Department of Justice has said is that, they've tasked, I believe it was 200 people to be going through filings. One of the things in the law that was passed last month and signed by President Trump was that there are accommodations allowed for protections for survivors and also some other accommodations for ongoing investigations or things like that, if there are any. So we are seeing really heavy redactions here.
Bloomberg's Ben Bain reports some lawmakers on Capitol Hill are accusing DOJ of violating the law by not releasing all the files by a December 19th deadline. The ongoing review means there could be even more releases as we head into the holidays.
Nathan, President Trump has been handed a rare defeat at the Supreme Court. In a 6-3 decision, the justices refused to allow the president to deploy the National Guard in Chicago to assist with immigration enforcement. Lori Levinson is a former federal prosecutor and a professor at Loyola Law School.
It is a big decision from the Supreme Court that said that President Trump did not have the authority under the law he invoked to call up the National Guard in Chicago.
And that's Loyola law professor Lori Levinson. The High Court deliberated over the case for more than 2 months, an unusual amount of time for a request where the Trump administration claimed the city was facing an imminent threat.
Well, Karen, another piece of the president's immigration policy has gotten a legal boost. A federal judge says the Trump administration can move ahead with a $100,000 fee on new H-1B visa applications. Analysts say the ruling is a setback for U.S. tech companies that rely on hiring skilled foreign workers. But the judge says the president has the power to impose the fee under an express statutory grant of authority. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce brought this case. It says a six-figure fee will make H-1B visas cost prohibitive, and it can still appeal the decision.
Nathan, now that the latest on the war in Ukraine, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says his country and the U.S. remain split primarily on territorial issues and talks on a peace plan to end the war. Ukraine rejects Russia's demands to give up land in eastern Donetsk, fearing it would leave the country vulnerable to a new Russian attack. Zelensky says he's looking for a meeting with President Trump to discuss the territory question.
Well, turning to markets now, Karen, the Santa Claus rally continues around the world. The MSCI All-Country World Index is up for a fifth straight day, taking its gains this year to 21%. Steve Quirk is Chief Brokerage Officer at Robinhood Markets.
Coming into the end of the year, I think we've seen strength in terms of engagement and people sort of finishing out the year. I think there was a little bit of a concern, in the first part of December when we had a stretch of down days if we'd ever get this Santa Claus rally, but it seems to have materialized.
Robinhood Markets' Stephen Quirk says yesterday's gains were fueled by stronger than expected U.S. growth data. The U.S. stock market closes for Christmas Eve at 1 p.m. this afternoon, Wall Street time.
And Nathan, the gold rally continues. It's trading about $4,500 an ounce for the first time ever. Precious metals are ending this year with gains not seen in decades. Bloomberg Metals reporter Martin Ritchie says global uncertainty have helped drive this rally.
You can never imagine prices at this level even 2 years ago. But here we are. And I think this December rally that you've seen in gold and in the precious metals is really a kind of continuation of the same themes we've seen throughout this year. It's about the debasement trade, growing sort of mistrust in traditional assets, the sovereign bonds and currencies. It's about the weaker dollar. It's about central banks buying gold because of those things.
And Bloomberg's Martin Ritchie says gold has gained more than 70% this year and silver has risen by 150%. Both are on track for their best annual performance since 1979.
Well, Karen, we've got some deal news this morning. Sanofi has agreed to buy California-based Dynavax Technologies for $2.2 billion. The French drug maker is trying to expand a vaccines business that's currently anchored by its flu shot. This deal would give Sanofi a hepatitis B vaccine as well as an experimental shingles inoculation. Shares of Dynavax up 37.5%.
And that's news when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Karen Moscow.
I'm Nathan Hager, and this is Bloomberg.